this tutorial we'll be looking at the Visit Location step in the Quest system of the Space Virtual World platform. I've already introduced the player to the quest with a conversation step. Now I'm ready to release the user to undertake a task, in this case to visit a location. So I add a new step in the quest, and I change the step type in the drop-down box from conversation to visit location. You can see there are a number of step types, and I'm going to use each of them in series in this quest so you can see how to deploy each one. The visit location step is very simple to use. In the area to visit field, I add any object in the scene where I want the user to go. It could be that I add an existing item that happens to be in the right place, or if I want precision, I can create an empty game object and put it exactly where I want it. The proximity field determines how close the user needs to get for the step to complete. This is the kind of step where it's useful to add text to the hint field. I'm just saying use WASD or arrow keys to walk around. If the location the user has to visit is really obvious, or if the location is one they have to work out for themselves, this may be all you need to do. The quest will move on to your next step as soon as you get there. But you can optionally also take advantage of the navigation system and give the user a visible path to follow, so they are automatically guided around the region. The navigation line will be automatically generated if you add a nav mesh to your region. You can create a nav mesh by going to Window, Navigation, and then clicking Bake. The blue area shows what the bake has identified as navigable space. That means it can guide your player from any point in the blue area to any other point in the blue area using a navigation line. Items that have a nav mesh applied, terrain or buildings, need to be ticked as static here in the inspector. Sometimes you might need to tinker with the bake settings and rebake. The max slope and the step height settings may need adjustment if you have steep hills or stairs and second stories in your space. If you have a really big map, perhaps including a huge terrain with background mountains, but you only want the buildings or a small area to be navigable, you can highlight any objects or terrain in your scene and in the inspector click the small arrow next to static and untick navigation static for those items. With the nav mesh in the region, the navigation line will also guide users to other targets in other step types. But for some steps, conversation steps for instance, you may want to hide the navigation line to avoid confusion or for simple aesthetic reasons. So you can suppress the nav line on any step where you do not want a visible guide for the user, leaving it enabled for the specific steps where you do want to guide them. It's also worth noting that the navigation line currently doesn't appear in the editor when you're in preview mode, and you will need to upload your region and test it on the creator servers to see it in action. In the next tutorial, I'll be looking at how to use the Quest Game Object component, which allows you to hide any object in your scene and reveal it during specific steps in your quest.